welcome. Raging the Game today. I'm David Levin. This is our Friday episode, so we're talking about the inner game of life. Tuesdays are for the mental game of sports and competition. Fridays are for the rest of our lives. So how are you doing this week? I hope you are well. Hope you are feeling the lightness of the season. It's funny, this particular time of year is actually super crazy with all the graduation stuff, but the warmer weather and the longer days and the promise of summer feels like it's all easy street, right? At least it does for me. But the reality is summer can be pretty crazy too. Anyway, I still love it. Weather is getting better here and some pretty hot days coming soon. I played pickleball last weekend for the first time in forever. That was super fun, though I'm really sore. More on that later. The regular play schedule is supposed to pick up next week, though you never know with outdoor games. Peter, our son, has picked up a paid summer internship with a local architect, which is super great. Actually working in his field in our little town and getting paid. Hard to believe his luck there, but we're excited about that. Frances had her last week of school this week. Also hard to believe. The year went by really fast. And now we are officially in the summer groove. Well, I guess next week. Still lots of graduation events this weekend. Plenty to talk about in the pod this week. Trump's awful new batch of pardons, his continued massive crypto corruption, more cuts to government health and safety programs, a crazy 10 Commandments bill in Texas, some great new pushback, taco, a summer meditation challenge, and a fun new book. All right, we'll start with ups and downs. So what gave me a lift this week and what things are pulling me down? The first up was the other night at our kids' high school. They have an event 2 or 3 times a year called Potluck of Ideas, where families can go see the work students have done in the previous period, and of course have a potluck meal. There are displays of the physical projects, the artwork, they have performances and awards. And this time there was a show from the Circus class, about a half hour of acrobatics and skits and music. And it was just really fun. I never want to go to things like this, right? I also usually end up happy that I did. That's a pattern. But I was especially happy to have been there for this show. It was really great. Just sort of lit you up. Another pretty big one. I mentioned last week picking up with Noom again, the weight loss program, and it was starting out well. It's still going pretty well. I'll talk more about it later, but that's feeling good. It's a big relief. Speaking of relief, I also mentioned there was one more song in the project that needed vocals that I was worried about being able to sing. And this one was even harder than the last one, so I was really worried about it. But I got that one this week too. That felt very good. There's also another song, an earlier one from this whole redo project, that I was starting to not feel good about. It just didn't feel right, even though I've already reworked it once, sort of obvious and cliched. I was starting to think it was not going to make the cut. But I had some fresh ideas for that, changed things around again, and I really like it now again. That was another great surprise. So now the entire redo project is done. 5 songs I mentioned earlier. I think they all started back like in the 80s. These are old songs, like 40 years old, that had some good bits, had some bad bits, tried to bring them all up to my modern standards anyway. And they're all updated and ready to go now. That's excellent. So now I'm back into writing from scratch mode. I'd like to get 2 or 3 more songs before I think about the next level of production. But that's just a whole different process, as you can imagine. The blank page, where do you start? But I had a couple ideas yesterday, and I already feel like I've got some good things to work with, so that's sort of exciting. Interesting, too, part of the inspiration at this point is listening to the other songs, the existing batch. There's about 8 of them now. And thinking about them as an album group, and now thinking what's missing, or what could I add that makes the whole album more interesting and cohesive. I don't know, but I'm guessing most listeners might not realize that artists think of albums that way. It's not just a collection of their latest songs. It's an actual piece that's created as a whole, this particular set of songs in this order. Anyway, that's where that is now. That's kind of fun. For my downs, I'll talk more about these in top stories, but Trump's pardons this week took a toll on me. Just so disheartening, so damaging to our country. Also, his ongoing massive levels of grift and corruption. None of it should be allowed to happen. And there's no doubt about that. But clearly it is happening with apparently no end in sight. So that's been a little harder than normal for me this week. I imagine same for you. Anyway, that's ups and downs for this week. Next up, top stories. The big story this week, as I mentioned, is the horrible batch of pardons Trump issued this week. According to the New York Times, he pardoned over 24 people this week, including political allies. And just to give you a sense of what's going on, his lead pardon attorney, Ed Martin, you might remember that name, he couldn't get approved for U.S. Attorney in D.C. because he was so outrageously partisan and pro-Trump. He's overseeing pardons now. So he posted, quote, "No MAGA left behind," end quote. So it's right out in the open. If you're on our team, we've got your back. Never mind the rule of law. We will take care of you. This is a heartbreaking corruption of the whole concept of the presidential pardon. Anyway, here are a few of the highlights. He pardoned a guy named Scott Jenkins. He was a sheriff convicted of taking money in exchange for making people deputies. Like they couldn't get on the police force normally, the sheriff's force, whatever you call it. He was selling positions on the force. I'm not totally sure what the benefit of being a deputy might be. Maybe they can, speed through traffic lights, not stop, whatever. I don't know. But this is clear corruption, right? Obviously, selling government value for personal gain. Tried, convicted, pardoned by Trump. Another guy, Paul Walzak, maybe you're pronouncing that name, Walzak, nursing home executive, was found guilty of stealing over $10 million from the paychecks of the nurses and doctors who worked for him to finance a yacht and other luxury items. Typical. His mother goes to $1 million per person dinner with the president. 3 weeks later, he gets a pardon. Wonder what happened there. Apparently, she's been a big Republican donor for years, so they claim the son was prosecuted to punish her for her political views and activities. Never mind that he pleaded guilty. But that's the pattern with these political pardons. If you claim you were mistreated because you're a Trump supporter or even just a conservative, that's all it takes. Another great example, Todd and Julie Chrisley, reality TV stars, apparently I'd never heard of them, convicted of fraud and tax evasion, cheated banks out of more than $30 million. Again, of course, to pay for their lavish Trumpy lifestyle. Their daughter is a big donor, claims her parents were, quote, persecuted by rogue prosecutors, end quote, because of their public profile and their conservative beliefs. Again, there was a unanimous jury verdict. Juries tend to make their own decisions based on the facts and the law. Never mind that. Full pardons from Trump. So basically, anyone who's convicted of doing the kinds of things he has done all his life, fraud, ripping people off, cheating on taxes, if they're white and on his side, he just lets them walk. So that's one category. The other is people who have committed violence. Again, on his side. He pardoned the January 6th rioters. You remember that was especially awful. He's reportedly considering pardoning the men who plotted to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Can you even imagine that? Those were seriously dangerous and delusional people. Letting them back out again is a terrible idea, let alone the message it sends. But he's thinking about pardoning them, if you believe the reporting. So the worst part of all this for me is that it's all so completely legal. The framers just left a big hole in the Constitution with this, assuming a president would act responsibly, would act in good faith, would not use the power for his own gain, and if he did, that Congress would impeach him for it. So now with this president and this Congress, it's completely out of control. In my opinion, one of the first things we'll have to do once we get power again is fix some core weaknesses in our system. And top of that list will be a constitutional amendment to limit presidential pardon power. We just cannot let this continue like it is. It's too corrosive to our system. Speaking of needing to fix our system, the second big item for me this week is the continued reports of the massive Trump financial corruption. It's just beyond belief and beyond anything we've seen before. He has increased his wealth, his personal wealth, $1 billion a month since taking office this time. He's always been a grifter and a terrible business person. His companies go bankrupt. He cheats his contractors, who rips off his partners. But now that he's back in power and has discovered the whole unregulated crypto industry, he's finally figured things out and is cashing in. He and his sons are raking in hundreds of millions of dollars in ways you just can't believe. Blatant influence peddling from the Middle East, his flying palace we've talked about. Vietnam, the country under pressure from tariffs. Fast-tracked approval for a new Trump family golf course, explicitly saying because Trump wanted it. And Congress, through all this, is just silent. No one is doing anything to stop it. So this is another area that we have to fix when we get a chance. I'm confident most, if not all of this, will end up being illegal in one way or another, but the laws have no teeth in them. So we need new guardrails that actually work. First, we need to impeach him again and get him out of there so we can stop the damage. And I'm not convinced that it's as impossible as it sounds. But beyond that, again, I expect this to take another constitutional amendment. After the Civil War, we put in place a set of amendments to address the critical issues around all of that. We need a similar plan this time. There are fundamental flaws in our system that can be taken advantage of by a rogue president and a Congress that won't do its duty. So I think we should run on that plan. I really do. We're going to put in place real fixes that keep this kind of thing from happening again. By the way, Ezra Klein's podcast this week on Trump's crypto corruption is excellent. Check that out if you want to know more about this. It's really something. So those are the biggest stories for me this week. But of course, there's always more to mention. There's the ongoing Harvard assault. They've now tried to block them from having any foreign students, which is like a third of their student body. They have temporarily halted all student visas in the whole country. They want students to have social media screening now before they're allowed in. And by the way, it should be said, this is so hurtful to our country. All these students want to come here. And when they stop coming here and we lose all that talent and investment and research, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot in every way. I don't know what they think they're helping with all this. They are loosening regulations on pollution and carcinogens in the environment. They cut staff and halted rules protecting coal miners from black lung. At the same time, Trump is boasting about wanting to boost coal production. Whose side do you suppose he's on with that? They canceled a contract to develop the next generation of vaccines against new flu viruses, including bird flu. So if we get another COVID or worse, we won't be prepared, and it'll be on purpose. It's like they're fast-tracking nuclear plants, while at the same time gutting safety controls. Something is going to go wrong in a big way, and they're going to kill millions of people with these ridiculous policies. This one's a much smaller issue, but it's a great example of Trump's character, and it's just constant lying. He has been suing the Pulitzer Prize Board, of all things, for defamation because they gave Pulitzers to the New York Times and Washington Post for their coverage of the Russia investigation, which we all know showed without any doubt that Russia played a big role in trying to influence the 2016 election, right? We all know that. So the Pulitzer Board filed to have that case dismissed, but that was denied this week, which means the case can continue. It doesn't say anything about the merits, about who's likely to win, nothing about any of that. All it says is the case can continue. So never mind all that. Trump comes out with this breaking announcement of a major victory in the case. He says the papers, now they admit it was a scam, never happened, and the reporting was totally wrong. They have to take it all back. They have to give their Pulitzers back. It's just a massive vindication on every point. And all of that is 100% false. The papers have said no such thing. The case is just going to continue on. But this is what he does. He takes the smallest grain of truth, the request was denied, the case can go forward, and twists it to claim his whole story is vindicated. And that then becomes the framing for the story from then on. Nothing new there, of course, just the latest example of what a colossal liar and fraud he is. I just wish it mattered more to more people, you know? I'll never understand that. I will say this, I do believe it's going to come home to roost for him at some point. We got 2 catalogs in the mail this week from different gardening supply companies. Both of them, at the bottom of the ordering page, have added a 6% tariff surcharge. People are going to start noticing things like that, and they're not going to be happy, and they will know who is responsible. Here's a crazy one. In Texas, the governor is preparing to sign a new bill that will require the 10 Commandments to be posted in every classroom. Require them to be posted. Didn't we already settle this question? Isn't this unconstitutional in multiple ways? The Establishment Clause, the Equal Protection Clause. And seriously, why does it have to be in the public school with kids who aren't Christian in the first place? Why can't it just be at home and at church? And why do we keep having these same fights? Oh, I know. It's because we have a new Supreme Court, or at least new in the last couple of years. It used to be that decisions became precedent, and justices would respect precedent unless things significantly changed. But now with this court, forget precedent. We'll just make things work the way we as conservative Christians think they should. So it's not really even about the law anymore with this court. It's just another branch of politics. That's what this is about. The problem is that's not compatible with having a stable rule of law society. You can't just keep going back and forth with fundamental legal principles. Anyway, I'm glad I don't live in Texas. But that's cold comfort with the Supreme Court. They could and probably will come for everyone given the chance. Speaking of things that need to be fixed, we also need to set term limits for justices and maybe even expand the court to undo how they stole those 2 seats. Historically, there was 1 justice per circuit court. The 9 we have now were set when we had 9 circuits. We have 13 circuits now. It should not be hard to make the case for expansion. On the other hand, for the good news, Trump keeps losing big in court. This week, the whole tariff program was blocked, at least temporarily. We'll see where that goes, but that could be very good. Of course, Stephen Miller, a.k.a. Trump's Himmler, called it a judicial coup, which is actually very dangerous and a theme they've been pushing for a while. Anyway, good news on tariffs. The best one this week, the best pushback, is the taco thing, if you've heard of that, from Wall Street. Apparently, taco stands for Trump always chickens out. So some Wall Street guys have been trading against Trump's tariff announcements. They know he's going to pull back on his big attacks, so they're trading based on that. That's funny on its own, but Trump was asked about it this week by a reporter, and he really didn't like that, as you can imagine. This is the kind of thing that will drive him crazy. So I'm hoping to hear a lot more about it. Taco Tuesday, Taco Trump Day. Let's have fun with that, shall we? All right, my goodness, that's enough Trump talk for today. Next up, Inner Game Gold. Last week, we looked for the second week in a row at the importance of self-mastery to our happiness and success. This week, I want to check in on the wonderful mental game management tool of sitting meditation. We've talked about this before, of course, and you may have your own experience with it. A lot of people have at least tried it. But I'm reminded this week, as summer feels like it's finally here, more open schedules, more time outside, that it might be a nice time to revisit this as part of our daily or weekly routine. First, quick reminder, if you're not already familiar with it, the idea is to take 10 or 15 minutes, sit quietly, observe your thoughts as they come up in your mind, and then gently but firmly shut them back down. So you're sitting, your thoughts are quiet, you notice one come up, and you say, no, not now, just sitting, and you come back to being quiet. And as thoughts keep coming up, which they always will, you just keep doing the same thing. Nope, not now, just sitting. So that's the sitting meditation we're talking about. And this is super helpful in many ways. The exercise itself is directly beneficial. It's calming. It can help you feel more alert and refreshed afterward. It's also the perfect exercise to remind us of how to master our mental game in general, because this is the same mechanism we use in the moments when we need to be focused and present in our work or in competition. And over time, it actually rewires our brain to be less reactive and more resistant to stress. So it really is a great thing to do for many reasons. It's also helpful to remember that you can do it pretty much anywhere and any time. It doesn't have to be in a special place or at a special time. I had one student in the sports academy course say he tried it once on the back of a scooter while his dad was driving, and it worked great. So that's why I thought about it in the context of summer. It just seemed like it would be fun to think about picking it back up for the season if you're not already doing it. Pick a nice summery spot on the back porch, maybe in a lawn chair somewhere. I suppose it might feel weird to do it where people could see you, though it's perfectly fine to do it with your eyes open too. But anyway, that's the idea. Just a reminder of the value of a regular sitting meditation and an invitation as summer arrives to take a fresh look at working it into your daily and weekly routine if you're not already doing that. All right, that's Inner Game Gold this week. Next up, raise your outer game. This week, just a quick update on my creatine and Noom situation. I mentioned already the Noom restart's going well. And if you don't know, Noom is the app I use to manage my weight. It's great. I love it. It's the easiest, most friendly system I've tried. It's the only thing that's worked for me over time. But this last time, a couple months ago, it didn't work. And it was just the strangest thing. After you've lost weight a couple of times, you know what it looks like. You drop a few pounds quickly in the first week. Then it settles into a 1 to 2 pound a week pace. You might hit a plateau now and then that slows things down. But over time, if you stay with it, the pounds will come off pretty predictably. But this last time, it just wasn't working. And it was killing me. I mean, I worked hard for 5 weeks. And I didn't lose even 4 pounds. I think it ended up at 3.5 pounds. That's crazy. It just made no sense. The only thing that was different from earlier was that I was taking creatine, which I've also talked about. Now, reading everything I could find online, it makes no sense that creatine would have any effect, right? That it would keep me from losing weight. But it was the only thing that was different. So in my desperation, I decided to get off creatine this time. And long story short, I lost more in the first week than I did in 5 weeks last time. And now, most of the way through my second week, it's still going. It keeps going. Still fingers crossed, don't quite trust it because of how weird it was last time. But the truth is, this is exactly what you'd normally expect. I'm just cautious because it was so different last time. The other thing to point out is that this has been a huge reminder of how helpful creatine is. Otherwise, I'm so much more sore now, like all the time. It's insane. The difference is just so obvious before and after. I mentioned I played pickleball last weekend for the first time in a couple of weeks. I'm still sore today, 5 days later. While I was playing, I got tired a lot more quickly. I mentioned I had started to run again to make up for my lack of pickleball. The first time out, surprisingly easy, not too sore afterwards. I was still on creatine. The next time, after I was off it for a couple of days, it was night and day, way harder, much more walking, much more sore afterward. So 2 updates, both related to creatine. And of course, this is a sample size of 1. Could easily just be me. Also, not medical advice, just something interesting to maybe think about for yourself if it applies. But creatine is clearly making a huge difference in my strength and endurance and recovery. I can't wait to get back on it, and I can't recommend that enough. But it might not be great while you're trying to lose weight. All right, that's Raise Your Outer Game. Next up, our challenge of the week. This week, let's see about picking up a summer meditation routine if you're not already doing it. Again, doesn't have to be a big thing, 10 minutes is plenty. The biggest decision will probably be what time of day you want to do it. Most people find first thing in the morning works best, but whatever you think will work for you. If you want, maybe pick a spot that somehow celebrates summer. Not required, of course, but it might be nice, something warm and sunny. And then, like we said, just sit for 10 minutes, watch your thoughts, and keep bringing yourself back to being quiet and present. Probably also a good idea to do some journaling with this, just to make note of what it feels like, what difficulties you're having, if any, what lessons you're taking from it. But that's our challenge this week. If you're not already doing it, see if you can't start a nice sitting meditation as part of your daily or weekly routine, something you could try to stay with through the summer. By the way, if you don't have experience with this and would like a little more in-depth instruction, our book, Raise Your Inner Game, and the Raise Your Inner Game Sports Academy training for athletes have everything you need in there. You can learn more about those at raiseyourinnergame.com. Otherwise, that's our challenge of the week. Next up, highly recommended. I finished the Michael Connelly book, Nightshade. I actually didn't end up thinking it was that great, which is a surprise because, again, he's consistently one of my favorite writers. But this one just didn't quite pay off for some reason. No big surprises, no big resolutions, just ended up feeling a little flat. So mixed recommendation for that. My new book, though, is great right out of the gate. It's called Fever Beach from Hiaasen. If you don't know him, he writes hilarious books based in Florida with some of the most outrageous characters you will ever come across. Great dialogue, super funny. And this one comes out blazing. It's just so fun. I may be a quarter in, I suppose it's too soon to officially recommend, but so far so good. I'll keep you posted on that. The last thing I want to recommend, I mentioned earlier, but it's the latest episode of the Ezra Klein Show, his podcast. This one on Trump's crypto corruption. It's really, really good. It's funny with Ezra, I don't listen to most of his episodes because he touches a lot of different topics, and I'm not interested most of the time. I already have a hard enough time keeping up with the pods I follow. So unless I really am interested in what he's talking about that week, I'll just move on to the next one on my list. But when I am interested, they're consistently very good. He's super smart, but also good at keeping things clear and relatable. Anyway, this is a good one. Recommended. All right. That's our show for this week. Thank you as always for joining. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great week. Keep up the good work. I will see you next time.